So welcome to your practice. And for today's practice, you will need a couple of blocks, a strap, maybe something for your knees to pad under your knees for table, being on the knees, hands and knees. I'm finding I need that more and more. And today we just have this invitation to look at, in our practices, both on the mat and off the mat, this idea of steadiness and ease, sthira and sukha, effort and ease. It's often translated as effort and ease. But you could translate sthira, S-T-H-I-R-A in Sanskrit. You could translate that as stableness, firmness, resoluteness, being alert. And sukha, my favorite translation for sukha, is being in a good fit or a good place. So it's often translated as ease, but it's a good fit. And I think that we can achieve that steadiness. The part of steadiness we achieve through having a strong core, physical, emotional, spiritual, grounding. And we experience that good fit and that good place by using breath primarily, right? So today when we practice, if you find yourself struggling at all in a pose and not having a good fit, maybe just trying to observe where that's happening in your body and maybe what muscles can soften, what areas of your body can soften, and or what emotional resistance you might have to something. It's always helpful as well. And we'll get started. I'll meet you over on the mat. Start on your back. Just allow yourself to drop down into the earth, the support of the earth, almost as if you're being held by the earth. Can you let yourself drop that much? So you could be in a shavasana type shape, or you could have your knees bent and rest your knees together. And just bring your attention for a few rounds of breath to this idea of balancing effort, attentiveness, strength with a good fit, a good place or ease. And then you can separate your knees, feet as wide as the edge of your mat, maybe even outside the edges of your mat, and just softly let your knees move back and forth, side to side. So we let ourselves move into practice in a very intentional, mindful way. So taking it slowly. And then draw your knees up towards your chest. Feet are suspended in the air. You've got arms out to the side, so you have sort of a dead bug look. And as you rock back and forth, extend the opposite leg out, so you're coming across midline, and come back across and extend the other leg out. So you have this, arms can stay or go back and forth, up to you, but just get a lot of just really big loose movement through your hips, your shoulders, articulating through your knees, move with the arms and then keep the arms in a T shape. You could try both. And then the next time your right leg comes across midline to the left, do take your arms into the T shape and just take a couple breaths in this opening twist. Inhale to draw your right knee in towards your chest, come across, left leg comes across midline, keep the arms in the T shape and twisting in the opposite direction. And then inhale back, find that same position with your knees stacked over your hips and your arms stretching behind you on the floor, backs of your hands to the floor. And we'll just go back and forth. Bring your arms down to your sides and extend your legs up towards the ceiling. Point your toes. And then flex your at your ankles, stack your knees again over your hips and your arms come back behind you. So we're just moving back and forth, articulating through the shoulders, through the knees, through the ankles. And you'll feel, eventually you'll feel a little bit of work in your core. Just saying hello or waking up. And just becoming aware of where you might have some stickiness. Great. Then the next time you come to knees stacked over hips and feet suspended, go ahead and lower your feet to the floor, soles of the feet to the floor, and then let your knees open up wide. Feet are not touching, you need a little space between your feet, and bring your arms into cactus shape beside you. Okay, so this is the inhale, and on the exhale, just bring your knees together and your elbows together and press your low back into the floor. And on your inhale, open up. Exhale, bring the knees together, elbows together, press your low back into the floor. Inhale, knees come wide, elbows come out to the side, arms out to the side, and just repeat that a few times. So about 3 more rounds. And then the last time you bring everything together, go ahead and bring your knees into your chest. Take your hands onto your knees and circle your knees around in one direction. So you should feel a nice massage action on your low back, pelvic area, back of the pelvis. So go around in one direction and then the opposite direction. And then soles of the feet back to the floor, arms alongside your body, and just a few pelvic tilts. And see if you can limit this to your lumbar spine, your lower back. So as you draw pubic bone away from navel, you're doing a anterior tilt. And then as you draw your pubic bone back towards your navel, posterior tilt of the pelvis. Just in the lumbar spine, the pelvis, and then release that. And now try to make same action happen in your thoracic spine. So you will have to articulate through the pelvis slightly, but see if you can have this go all the way up into your, mainly be in your thoracic spine, your mid-back. So you draw your mid-back away from the floor and then back down to the floor. And then go ahead and let this go all the way up, move all the way up into your cervical spine, your neck spine. So as you draw pubic bone away from navel, maybe you find your chin tucking towards your sternum slightly, and as you tilt the pubic bone back towards the navel, your chin might move up towards the more neutral position. Just let it move all the way up and down through your spinal column. And even in these subtle movements, notice if there's any holding anywhere, like are you holding muscular tension in your face, your hands? Can you relax and soften your hands? And then from here, you can either roll to one side and press up, or cross your ankles and rock up to the seat. And we'll come to hands and knees if you need to put some padding underneath your knees. Go ahead and set that up. You need to remove your down jacket. Okay. So to begin with, let's start with the knees underneath the hips and the hands underneath the shoulders. And on the inhale, you draw your chest forward, let your belly reach down towards the floor. You could tuck your toes under here, spreading through your pelvis, your tail feathers. And then on your exhale, press the floor away around your back, tuck your chin and tuck your tail. Okay, take a few rounds like that. So remember that the breath is what's going to help us stay in that good place, that ease, place of ease. After the next few rounds, bring your hands forward, one hand length. And now moving around in a circle, your whole body around in a circle as you move through that spinal undulation. Take your time. Go in both directions. And then come back to center, but now bring your hips back towards your heels. Reach your hands even one more length away. And then roll your hips back and forth. Roll your hips from right to left. And then just circle the hips. Just circling the hips. You're circling in one direction and the opposite direction. Find neutral. Take the tops of your feet to the floor. You might want something in between your thighs and your calves here if child's pose does not come easily to you. And rock your hips back, hips to heels, child's pose. Arms can be in any position that feels nice to you. Take a couple of breaths in your child's pose, and then take your hands over to the right and really ground your left sit bone, your left hip, and take a few breaths here. Walk your hands through center, over to the left, ground your right sit bone, your right hip, And take a few breaths here. And then come back to center and inhale up to cow. Turn your toes under and press your hips back and up into downward facing dog. Pedal out your feet here, take a little stroll. Feet could be hip distance apart or as wide as your mat. Find some good place in this downward dog. Inhale to come back to cow. And then exhale, just sit back on your heels momentarily. Next inhale, you're going to rise up, standing on your knees, bring your arms overhead. Interlace your thumbs and reach your fingertips up. Draw your tailbone down. Draw your low ribs in. Now, can you increase the space between your hips, your hip pointers and your low ribs without bringing your shoulders up into your ears? On your next exhale, just let your arms float down to the side, balancing on your left knee, bring your right foot forward. And just find hands to the front of the thigh. Move back and forth a few times in this low lunge. And then find proposal pose. So front knee over front ankle. Inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale your left hand, your left fingertips to your left hamstring. Inhale, left arm comes up to meet the right, and exhale, right hand to left hamstring. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Now heel toe your right foot out of the way over to the edge of your mat. Take your hands between and inside of your right foot. Turn your back toes under. So you're in a lunge with the back leg lifted. Right foot is to the outside of your hands. And then start to straighten your front leg. Press your hips back and then step back. Downward facing dog. Inhale, drop your knees, come to cow. Exhale, elbows down, child's pose. Inhale, come up to cow. Exhale, turn your toes under, press your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Find a good fit. Find that effort and ease. And that might even mean you're in puppy pose rather than downward facing dog, if that's the good fit for you today. Inhale, drop to your knees, come to cow. And then exhale, sit back on your heels. Momentarily, next inhale, you're going to rise up on your knees, arms overhead, interlace your thumbs in the opposite orientation. Low ribs in, tailbone reaching down. Find space between your hip bones and your ribs. And now here, take a little side bend in each direction. Back to center, and on your next exhale, let your hands float down. Weight goes into the right knee. Bring your left foot forward. And find your hands to the top of your thigh. Just gently moving back and forth in this lunge, coming forward, and then taking your hips back. You don't have to completely straighten the front leg. This is more just warming up in the pelvis area, the hips, hip flexors. And then find proposal pose. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, right hand to right hamstring. Inhale. Exhale, left hand to right hamstring. Inhale, sweep the hands up. Move the left foot over to the side. Bring your hands down to the mat inside of the left foot. Turn your back toes under, lifting the back leg. Then start to draw your hips back. See if you can release that front foot back to downward facing dog. And pedal out through downward dog once again. Bend your elbows slightly. Bend your elbows about 2 inches and then roll them in and re-straighten. Bend your knees. Set your hips back, 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 and then re-straighten legs any amount. Relax your head. Find some ease in this effortful pose. Next inhale, drop your knees, come to cow. And on your exhale, bring your hips back to your heels momentarily. Then inhale, stand back up on your knees, reach your arms overhead. Interlace your thumbs. And now allow your hips to push forward as your upper body leans back. So back bend. Come back up to straight-ish. Release your arms down to your side. Take your weight into your left knee and put your right foot forward. Hands to your upper thigh, turn your back toes and press up into crescent lunge. Take the arms overhead in this crescent lunge, holding, lifting the back hamstring towards the sky, towards the ceiling. On your next exhale, you're going to turn your back foot and come into warrior two. So the back foot turns down, you find yourself into warrior two. Great. Inhale, now straighten the front leg, both hands above your head. Exhale, let your hands float down. Hands to your hips, bend your knees slightly, take a forward fold, and walk your hands to your right foot. As you turn your right foot forward, turn your back foot, find yourself back in crescent lunge. Inhale here, and exhale, take your hands down around your front foot, heel toe that foot out of the way, over to the right, straighten your legs, and sweep your right foot back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come to your knees and cow. Exhale, forearms to the floor, child's pose. Inhale this time, stand up on your knees, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands behind your low back, either interlacing your fingers or taking opposite wrist with opposite hand. And then straighten your arms any amount and draw your arms off your back. And slowly hinge forward as much as possible, reaching your arms off your back, touch your forehead to the floor. Draw your arms off your back strongly. Inhale to come back up. On the release, feel the energy in your arms. A lot of effort, your heart will be beating here. Just release, let that energy just percolate through your body. And now weight comes into the right knee, you bring your left foot forward. And lunging. Turn the toes under the back foot and come up into crescent lunge. Take a few rounds of breath here to find the steadiness. And then we're going to do that same little vinyasa. So inhale here, and on the exhale, turn your back foot and come into warrior two. It is good. Find some steadiness here. On your next inhale, we'll straighten the front leg, bring both legs straight, arms overhead. and then let the arms float down. This time interlace your hands behind your back, either opposite grip, opposite interlacing, or opposite hand grabs opposite wrist, and then take a fold here. Draw isometrically, draw your legs towards one another, your feet towards one another. Really feel the inner legs working. Press your outer heels down. And release your hands down to the floor. You walk towards the front foot, turn that front foot, the left foot, turn the back toes, find crescent lunge again. Woo. Inhale here. Exhale, let your hands float down to your blocks or the mat. Heel toe the left foot out of the way. Start to straighten that leg and bring your hips back towards your heels, releasing the foot, coming back to downward facing dog. Inhale, come to your knees and cow. And exhale, on this exhale, we'll come down to child's pose with the arms extended out in front. Roll your triceps down towards the floor. Good. And then inhale, just come up to a table in a neutral spine and find your strap. You're going to need your strap to be nearby now. So I think it might be best if you just drape your strap over your neck. Okay. And then let's start now with the left foot forward in proposal pose. Hands to the front thigh. We'll turn the back toes and come up into crescent lunge. Take your strap now in between your hands above your head and turn your back foot so you find warrior one. So the back foot turns out, front knee is bent. And we're going to open up with the strap. So bring the strap behind your head, open in this warrior one pose. Low ribs in, and then straighten the front leg and bring the belt forward and just try to pull it apart. Just in front of you, just try to pull it apart. And then inhale, bend through the front knee, sweep the strap behind you. Exhale, straighten the front leg, bring the belt in front like you're gonna just try to pull it apart. So it's right in front of you. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Now keep the front leg straight and now bring the belt behind you, palms in, pulling the strap apart, palms facing in. You're in a pyramid shape. You'll bow here into this shape. Now, if you need a little bend in the front leg, that's fine. And this is pretty effortful. So can you find some good place, some ease using your breath? We're going to hold this 3 rounds of breath. Next inhale, bend through the front knee, come back to warrior one. You just take your strap and dangle it over your neck. Come back to warrior one with hands on hips. And then on your inhale, step forward, Tadasana. Find some grounding, some stabling, some steadiness in your Tadasana. Breath. Then we'll bend the knees slightly and take your weight into your right foot, your right leg, so that you can draw your left hip back in space and find warrior one on the opposite side. Strap back in hands. We'll open up with the strap behind you. Your hands can be at any distance along that strap. And on the exhale, straighten through the front leg, bring the strap in front and pull it apart. Inhale, bend through the front knee, strap comes behind. Exhale, come forward. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Then you're going to release the strap. Bring it behind your back, palms facing in. As you draw your arms off your back, stretch the strap apart, kind of pull it apart. My hands are maybe 6 inches, 8 inches, right? And then I'm going to fold into this humble warrior shape. Pyramid, humble warrior. You can bend the knee, front knee, or keep it straight, whatever gives you, gets the most balance between that effort and ease. 3 rounds of breath. Notice if it's really constricted, you're really struggling to find the breath, and see if you can ease up in some way. Inhale to stand up and come forward. In Tadasana, just take your strap around your neck again and take a couple of resting breaths in Tadasana, grounding, resting breaths in Tadasana. Now with the strap in place, let's find the weight into the left foot and just lift the right leg and set it down. Balance your weight on your right foot, lift your left leg and set it down. Do this a couple times, just see where your balance is right now. Be very intentional about taking the weight into one foot, one leg, and then lifting the other one, the other knee high. Okay, and then we'll start with weight in the left foot. So spread your toes, find a good platform. Take the weight into the left foot, lift the right, turn the right knee out and find Vrikasana. Take your strap now above your head. You don't have to pull it apart with gorilla force, but take a lean over to away from the bent leg side over to the left. Back to center. How about leaning towards the bent leg side? Ooh. Back. And release. So you can just hold your strap or put it around your neck and then just shake your hips out, bounce your heels, walk around your space. Okay, so, when we have to hold something, hold our attention on something, whether it's a physical thing in an asana practice or just something in life, we can get overly tight, right? Or we don't find that ease. Let's try the other side. So right foot, spread your toes, find lots of good balance there. Lift your left knee up, turn it out, and place it. Strap above your head, loosely pulling against the strap, and side bend away from the bent knee to the right. fall out like I just did, you just come back. We'll come back to center. Try side bending towards the bent knee side. That's pretty challenging. To center. And release. Release you can drop your strap over to the side. Release your Vrksasana. Shake your legs out. Bounce your heels. Bounce your hands. We did this the other day. Bounce your hands. Get some fascial release up through the arms and the shoulders. And then find the top of your mat. Find your Tadasana once again. And now on your inhale, sweep your arms forward, set your hips back in Utkatasana, the fierce pose. Okay, we're gonna stand up, arms stay extended. Take a round of breath here, and then set the hips back down. Arms stay alongside the shoulder, the ears, biceps by ears. Gathering everything, gathering the hips towards one another. Keeping the breath going for steadiness and ease. And then stand up again. That could be on the exhale or inhale, doesn't matter. Take a couple rounds of breath here. Finding steadiness, and then your hips back down, maybe go a little lower. Hips back, tailbone reaching down towards the floor. Roll the triceps in, so there's a lot of effort here, but find this ease too, find the good fit. Holding for 2 more rounds of breath. And slowly pressing up. Okay, you got one more in you? Good, okay. I heard the answer. Drop your hips back. Maybe go a little lower. Squeeze the legs towards one another. Imaginary block between the legs. Roll the triceps away. Low back is in neutral. So draw the tailbone down towards the floor. 2 more rounds of breath. Slowly stand up. And now let your arms float down. Ooh, might even be a little dizzy here. Take your time. Float the hands down. Arms to side. Reach your fingertips towards the floor. See if you can get some opening in your shoulder, the trapeze, top of the trapezius, so you're not tight there. And then take your stance just a little bit wider. Hands to hips, soft bend in the knees, fold here, hands to the floor, walk your feet back to downward facing dog. Good. All right, inhale here, we drop to the knees, and then reach the hands forward, come chest and nose, chin, whatever, and come down onto your belly. Make a platform with your hands. Rest your forehead on that platform. Draw your tailbone down and lengthen, kind of pull your belly button, your navel away from the floor. So front body, back body, same length. Yeah, you can probably feel your heart beating here now. So from this position, elbows underneath shoulders, and find Sphinx. Draw your navel away from the floor. Really draw your navel up away from the floor. And feel how that helps you lengthen through the back and front evenly. Draw your tailbone down towards your heels. All right, from here, you're going to bring your right forearm across your body so that it's parallel to the short edge of your mat, and then you just roll over to your right side. Now, reach the left arm up to pull you away from the floor. So your obliques on the right side are working. There we go. And we're going to then take the top leg, keep that lift, take the top leg, half bow, and stretching the front of the quad. So if you feel yourself sagging, that would be, you know, too much ease, right? Too much ease. So keep pressing and keep lifting the side waist, the right side waist away from the floor. If you can release that top leg and roll back into Sphinx. Find it again. Pull your navel away from the floor. Strong core action here. Right? And then it's left forearm across the short edge of your mat, lined up with the short edge of your mat. Roll onto your left side. Reach the right arm up towards the sky so that you really help the left obliques engage. Now you're engaged here. Take the top foot with your top hand, a half bow, opening the front quad, top quad there, front of the right leg. Got it. Stay with it. Keep the side waist lifting away from the floor. Then you release. Roll back to Sphinx and all the way down to the floor. Make a little pillow or go side to side with your head. And draw your tailbone down towards the heels, right? So your navel away from the floor. See how that lengthens your low back. Great. Okay, so from here, this is effortful work. So we're going to really work to find some ease here. We'll bring the arms alongside your body, forehead to the floor. We'll do a couple rounds of locusts. Lift your hands away from the floor. So your palms up towards the ceiling. Shoulders, tops of the shoulders, head of the humerus pulling up away from the floor. And then lift your head and shoulders. Feet can stay on the floor. Draw a lot of length through your back. So you're long in the neck. And you've got the muscles along the spine are engaged. 3, 2, 1. When you release back to the floor, you can make the little pillow or turn one side of your head to the floor, and you will feel your heart working. You'll feel the heartbeat. This is effortful work. All right, back to center. And maybe, you might notice that in your life, you don't like the really effortful work, or maybe that's what you like the best. Just notice these things, right? So forehead to the floor. Now lift your palms up towards the ceiling and turn them in to face one another, like you're squeezing something between your hands. Lift your head and shoulders. Keep the back of your neck long. Two rounds of breath. You got it. Keep the back of your neck long. And release. Last one. Let's take forehead back to the floor. This time, let's take your opposite hand or opposite wrist with opposite hand, or interlace your fingers and lift your arms off your back as much as possible. Then lift your head and shoulders, lift your legs. Squeeze your buttocks, but don't clench. Actually, squeeze probably isn't the right word. Engage your buttocks, but don't clench. You have a soft focus just right off the short end of your mat. The eyes stay soft, the face stays soft. For 3, 2, 1, release. Ooh. And 1, you could bend your knees here and just take your feet back and forth as you have one cheek or temple to the mat, and then take it to the other side. Actually getting a little bit of length in the side, each side of the neck. Great. From here, you can roll over onto your back, slide one arm under the other, roll over onto your back. And just start with your knees bent first. We won't go right to the counter of that, but just start with your knees bent. Maybe a couple of pelvic tilts, but just relax here. And then you can pull the knees in. Crossing at your ankles, Apanasana. Maybe a slight rocking side to side. Release your left leg long, keep your right leg pulled in. And put some action in the left leg. So toes up towards the ceiling, press your heel into the floor. And then with your right hand on your right knee, just take some circles. Directions. And then bring your right foot as close to your right buttocks as possible and draw your knee away. Draw your knee away. Your right side of your waist will come up off the floor a little bit. Some of you might be able to bring your foot even kind of almost underneath your buttocks and start to arch your back, moving towards the left slightly and opening the front thigh a little bit more. Release. Soles of the feet back to the floor. Start here. Just kind of a neutral thing, and then pull your knees in. Cross your ankles opposite of what you did last time. Brain work, right? And just rock back and forth. Just nice rock back and forth onto the kidney spaces. And then release your right leg long. Keep your left knee hugged in. All right. Let there be some relaxation in the right hip flexor. And then circle the left knee. With directions. Set your left foot down so that your left heel is right by your left booty. And draw your left knee away, or come into a little bit more of an arch, drawing the left knee away. You might be able to just keep sliding that foot back. That depends on your functionality in your knees, right? And release. Both feet back to the floor. Soles of both feet back to the floor. Feet about hip distance apart. You can reach out with your fingertips and touch your heels. Let's do a few rolling bridges here. So draw the pubic bone away from navel slightly. So you find neutral spine or maybe a little bit of anterior tilt. Press into your feet, lift, sweep your arms behind. And any arm movement that suits you, you can leave your arms where they are as you roll down. Bring your arms back to the floor with your hips. But take maybe 5 or 6 repetitions here. this be massaging of your spine, one vertebra at a time. Next time you come down to the floor, pause just for a moment. We'll all come into strong bridge together. Lots of options. You can have your arms alongside your body, nice and tight, with your fingertips pointing up towards the ceiling. All right. You can have your arms alongside your body, palms down into the floor. And obviously you can always change any of these arm positions as you hold the pose, but we're going to press up into bridge. So the arms could stay alongside your body on the floor, or fingertips pointing up towards the ceiling. But see if you can roll your shoulder blades underneath so that the whole shoulder blade is making contact with the floor. Press your feet firmly into the floor, lift your hips, draw your knees away. Big heart opener here, and pretty effortful pose. You could also bring your hands underneath your sacrum and interlace your hands. You might have to scoot the shoulders a little bit more. So we've already done this action with the arms a few times. Release the pinkies, press your arms into the floor, lift and hold. We'll go for 5 rounds of breath with this bridge. Now to come out, if you're interlaced underneath your sacrum, release your arms. You can bring them back to the what we call the zombie arms, or you can reach your arms up towards the ceiling, fingertips pointing towards the ceiling. And you can slowly go nice and slow and roll this out. See if you can articulate through each spine bone. Finally make it back down to the floor. Avoid pulling your knees in right away. Just keep your, you could rest your knees together, but just keep your neutral spine there, neutral pelvis. And then if you need to pull your knees into your chest, you can do that, a little rocking back and forth. And then from here, we're getting ready to work towards Shavasana. So if you need a figure 4 or another twist of some sort, take your time to go there. Starting to unwind energetically as well, coming to a pausing in our practice and our day before we move on to whatever is next in our path. It's just all one big practice, right? All one big practice. Notice any other kind of resistance to this final Shavasana stillness shape. If you have other resistance, can you work with that to find some ease? really invite the stillness. We're coming right back where we started to being held by the earth. Here, can you find that ease in your, just in your whole being? Maybe placing your hands to your heart center and acknowledging with gratitude that which gives you breath, allows you to thrive. You could take a deep inhale through the nostrils and just a silent internal om. Namaste.